Yeah, welcome back to a Sunday Supplement. Let's focus now on a much-needed win for Manchester United against Sunderland at Old Trafford. The Sunday Express goes with home and away, with Rúben Amorim saying we must play like this every game because I haven't won away from home so far this season, of course. Jason, we keep talking about Manchester United whenever they win and ask, is this the turning point or is it simply kicking the can down the road again?
It was Chelsea, wasn't it, a couple of weeks ago? Yeah, we thought that was the one. No, it's a good question, and I think that's probably the question that Man United are asking themselves, really, because going into this game, all the talk was that this might be Amorim's last game, you know, that this might be 50 and out as the Man United head coach. So that's the level of pressure he is now under. And we're almost at a situation now with him, whatever the club says, it's almost like game by game, you know, will he survive, will he survive? And that's in itself is a terrible position to be in, especially at a club like Manchester United, where every single performance is being scrutinised, every result. The fact that he hasn't got back-to-back wins is incredible in itself. It's absolutely astonishing. And the fact that they've celebrated so much beating a newly promoted side, albeit one who's doing extremely well this season, again, shows the situation at the moment. But it was a good performance. They did play well, and it can be possibly a line in the sand moment. But as I say, I do hesitate to say that because we were talking about this lot after Chelsea, weren't we?
We were. Look, it's funny you should mention about the back-to-back wins because in the Sunday Telegraph, James Duckersby says, look, back-to-back league wins have proved elusive for Amorim, so there would be nowhere better to break that duck than at the home of the champions. Yeah. It's Liverpool next, of course, United's most bitter rivals. United have to find some momentum from somewhere. After all, lurching from game to game, as you said, is ultimately unsustainable. Julian, is it unsustainable to keep talking about Manchester United in these terms because it seems to be... It's like when you were younger, maybe, I'm sure, when you were a girl that you might have liked. She loves me not. It feels like that every single week, doesn't it?
Yeah, and for all the little positives we can find in some of the performances sometimes, like yesterday, even like Arsenal in the opening game of the season, then the week after, they just go back to being very average or being disappointed or not doing even no consistency really in what they could do or even what makes them good sometimes. So I'm not sure what to expect for the game at Liverpool in 2 weeks' time after the international break, really. Usually they do better against big teams and big clubs than against smaller ones. But we've seen these kind of wins before. Last season they beat Leicester 3-0 in March, I think, and we were like, OK, maybe this is something you can build on. And then after that, they went back to what they've done all through that year with Amorim at the helm. So I really don't know with them. But yes, he was a little bit better. But again, it was only Sunderland at home.
I think the sign of desperation is there when the goalkeeper makes his debut, does very, very well, keeps a clean sheet, and they're chanting that he's the new Peter Schmeichel.
Yeah.
I mean, it's his first game.
It was tongue-in-cheek. It was a bit of fun, wasn't it?
Well, I know, but I think it does show that they're just so desperate to hang on to some bit of hope, some positivity.
Yeah,
and I know it was obviously tongue-in-cheek, but this almost kind of shows where they're at the moment. That just something like that, a goalkeeper who doesn't sort of, throw one in, basically is something to celebrate.
Are there green shoots, though, Jackie? Because it looked like a dominant performance, particularly in the first half. Rúben Amorim called it an adult performance as well, because not only did they get the lead and a comfortable lead, they kind of managed the game in the second half, which is very unlike Rúben Amorim's Manchester United of late. Are there reasons to be, I'm not going to say fully optimistic, cautiously optimistic?
It's just crazy, isn't it, how we lurch from one week to the next with a completely opposing narrative. But that's down to them for not putting a sustained run together, and the fact they haven't won back-to-back in the Premier League since the end of the 2023-24 season is extraordinary. But I think a key to this was the early goal. The fact that Mason Mount scored in the 8th minute, I think, was huge. Can just settle things down. And I think huge credit goes to the supporters, by the way. I think their fans are so patient, way more so inside the stadium. When you actually go to Man United matches, it can be a little bit surprising because, we hear the narrative around it, we read, we see social media, and then you go to a Man United match. Their fans are incredible, especially the travelling supporters. So they deserve something back. So the fact they got an early goal, the fact they got a decent performance, yes, against a newly promoted side, but a good one that's hit the ground running, and fair play to Sunderland for that, I think was positive. But just talking about the narrative flip that we lurch from, we're all guilty of it because we're reflecting what's happening, of course, in our jobs. But 34 points from 33 games is shocking. It's relegation form, second only to Tottenham in terms of the teams that have been solidly in the Premier League in that time. That was before yesterday. And now suddenly, a clean sheet, a good performance, an early goal, the fans are happy, a new goalkeeper who doesn't chuck one in, and suddenly it's 3 wins at home in a row. It's 4 Premier League wins out of 8. That's how things can change so quickly. Now it's up to the players. Now it's up to the manager to go, OK, we've got a foothold with a good, solid, basic win. We need to build on that. It's not up to the supporters. It's up to them to show that they mean business.
It's almost a shame that the international break is coming now, because really, if you're Rúben Amorim after this and all the positives that Jackie mentioned, you go back to the training ground, you've got a week to prepare for the Liverpool game, and now tomorrow he's going to turn up at the training ground, there'll be 2 players, and they're going to just do keepy uppies or 3 players, and then that's it. And then he only sees them again in 10 days now. And in 10 days, a lot of things can happen with the national teams, and then you will only have 4 days or 3 days to prepare for the Liverpool game. So, in a way, this comes at the wrong time, this break.
Yeah, just looking at the Star on Sunday, their headline is back and no sack. Look, Jackie mentioned it there about the match-going fans. They really want it to work, and the hierarchy, more importantly, are desperate to see Rúben Amorim work as well. But I'll refer to this, and it's a little bit of 80s pop, if you like, referring to The Sun on Sunday. It's Bonnie Tyler. Rúben serenaded, but this is no total eclipse as heartache still looms. Do you feel there is an inevitability that Rúben Amorim will lose his job eventually, or will he be backed and no sack?
No, I think he's under pressure. He will be under pressure again if they lose against Liverpool in 2 weeks. Then we're going to say the same. But he can turn things around. He will have a bit more time. But I think there's always this kind of threat over him on like 2 defeats in a row, 3 defeats in a row, which they could easily do. And then that pressure is going to be bigger and bigger, and they will be linked with more managers, Gareth Southgate being one, and others, and it'll be difficult for him. But only results, more even than performances, only results can give him a bit of time.
Has it bought him a little bit more time, considering he's won this game, and maybe if they were to lose at Anfield, is it almost a free hit unless they get really bad?
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I think it does give him a bit more time, and I think also because we're now going into an international break, I think all the talk on Friday was that he might go after yesterday's game because of the international break. Now we've got another international break in November. I would have thought that next window, if he goes into that next window with a good run of results or a decent run of results, he'll be fine. If he doesn't, then the pressure will rise again. And I think we're almost in that game-to-game scenario with him now, which in itself is usually unsustainable going forward. So to answer your question that you asked to Julian, I still find it hard to see it working, just because it's gone on for quite so long. I think whatever happens, though, they should probably give him this season, because it gives them the whole season. Then I think they've only got the FA Cup in the league, and they might qualify for Europe, but they're not going to win it. So they may as well try and give this as long as possible to see if it will work, having invested so much into him, because otherwise, what are you going to do? And that's the big question.
And the hierarchy want it to work. That's key. The fans want it to work. The hierarchy want it to work. He clearly does. I like the fact that he said, my players back me. My players want me to stay in the job. Yeah, because he's taking all the flack on their behalf at the moment. But, yeah, I mean, it's in everybody's interest for them to try and build on this. But there were the odd tactical tweak yesterday that made things look a bit more positive with the attacking players coming together. He needs a little bit of time to get Mbeumo a bit more involved with Šeško. He looks so much better as a result of that. But it's got to happen quickly. And I slightly disagree about the result at Anfield, because obviously Liverpool need to win that game too. And I think if it was a narrow defeat and if it was a really, really strong Manchester United performance, I don't think that's the end of the world. But yeah, a win would do wonders. I
think the hierarchy have to back him, because the scrutiny will be on them as well, because they've spent a huge amount of money, and it will be an expensive sacking, having given Erik ten Hag a new contract. So they're probably something like, we need him to succeed for our own jobs as well, not just Ratcliffe, but obviously Omar Barada, the CEO, and Jason Wilcox. They'll be under huge pressure. if this doesn't work.
And having made him come effectively mid-season, he didn't want to come mid-season. He wanted to leave it to the end of the season. He's not daft. He knew that they didn't have the players that fitted his system. We keep banging on about systems, but that is the way he wants to play. They knew that. Maybe they know now that they made a mistake with that, so they want it to work out. And I agree with you. If they're not losing games every week, see it to the end of the season and see if it can potentially work with another window.
Just picking up on that, it's interesting about that preference that he didn't want to join mid-season. Would they have been in a better or a worse position had he joined at the end of last season? Because if joining mid-season, he's seen all the problems and almost had a free hit at it for the rest of that season, hasn't he?
I think he meant more to implement his own ideas and that system. Yeah, the pre-season would have been good. He could have gone into the transfer window if he had come in June to sign the right players, to fit the right system, to arrive in November. And I think in his first 30 days, they played 10 games because they were in the Europa League, obviously, at the time. And it was very difficult for him to do any work. I remember being at Old Trafford, and during the warm-up before a game, they were doing drills, like defensive drills, that they didn't have time to do during the week. So this was how bad things were in terms of we have no time here to do anything. That's why I think he wanted to come later, and rightly so, to be fair. But then Manchester United train come once, and if you don't take it, then he might not come again. That's why he felt, OK, I'm going to come now. But, yeah, it was not ideal for sure.
Yeah, you say it only comes once. Let's see if he's going to remain in that job, because there is still talk about potential replacements for Rúben Amorim. In the Star on Sunday, Jeremy Cross has written his comment piece about potential replacements for Rúben Amorim, with Sir Gareth Southgate being the name that is being mooted. The greatest irony, he says, of United supporters looking down their noses at Southgate is that he would be the perfect choice for them right now. Has he got a point, Jason?
I think he has, actually, and I think that sounds might surprise a few people, but I think because it's Manchester United and what needs to be done at Manchester United, you're almost talking as much about the culture of the club and the environment around the club and the way the club operates than actually what happens on the pitch. And I think that Gareth Southgate, if you look at the work he's done with England and the way he changed that environment, I think it's a similar job that he could do at Manchester United. The key would be, I would almost have him like a general manager, and then like a really good coach working with him, like almost like a head coach who's going to be, and then Gareth overseeing it all. I could see that working. Plus, I also think it's the one job in football that would interest him. I don't see him managing again. I really don't, except for this one job if it comes up. He's a Man United fan. His hero is Brian Robson. It's always the club he looks out for. I think it could be the one thing that tempts him back into management. I know a lot of Man United fans will wince the way you are at that thought, but
it's just the way I look.
I'm with Damish.
But no, I just think there's a particular case for this one. I think it's one that you look at and think, actually, I could see that working because of everything that needs to be done around the club. And I do feel for any coach that goes into Manchester United, whether it's Rúben Amorim or Andoni Iraola, whoever in the future comes in there, because it's too much. There's too much to be done, not just with the team, but the whole club. And I think if you got somebody like Southgate, who could almost like change the culture and be like, be in that role as much as anything else, with a really good young head coach or coach number 2 beneath him, then I think that could work.
I think there are better coaches to come in than him, starting with Iraola or Marco Silva, even at Fulham, who could do a better job. I think I agree with Jason on the culture and what Gareth would do to appease all of that and be better for that, for sure. But that works for England because you don't have your players every day on a daily basis at a club like Manchester United. The football and the tactics and that side of coaching is also very important. And I don't think Gareth Southgate has that or is good enough for that for a club like Manchester United.
Do you agree?
I really like Gareth Southgate. I don't know if I want to...
Don't sit on the fence. You have to...
No, I don't want to see him go in there and get ripped apart. And I don't have it at home, Man United fans, in my family at home. And, yeah, I'm not sure he'd be the right fit. I think maybe more for Jason's kind of role. And what Gareth Southgate can offer from a cultural point of view, again, something I think we don't talk enough about. We talk so much about footballers and tactics and XG and all the rest of it. But actually, there is a much bigger piece to argue about, which is culture. But whether he's the right fit for actual Manchester United manager, I can't see him getting that job. I could see him certainly in a role where he could have a massive impact and make a big difference to a club such as Manchester United. But I think it would be maybe an Iraola. Oliver Glasner, I think, is a fabulous manager. It's very underrated, very interesting to see what he's going to do at the end of his contract at Crystal Palace. I think there'll be big clubs coming after him, but I think those two would be in pole position. Xavi's another one who's been mentioned, of course, having left Barcelona. But I think the big club history is something that maybe you have to take in consideration at Manchester United. It's so huge and it's so much more than about tactics. So having just said that those other managers might be fantastic, it also needs somebody who's able to embrace that kind of huge club.
You've all talked about the culture. Could you argue that Rúben Amorim has changed the culture because of the way he approached that transfer window and getting rid of the players that he felt were affecting the culture at the club?
Well, he certainly he's put his stamp on it, but whether or not that's enough, I don't think it is, actually. I think that if you talk about Manchester United and talking to people at Manchester United and the atmosphere around the club, Rúben Amorim's going to hide into nothing. It's an incredibly difficult environment. The pressure is on. It's an unhappy club. You know, it's not a happy place. And I don't think that helps anyway. And obviously they had this huge upheaval with the number of people being made redundant and so on, which to a degree they were overstaffed. They had a big staff compared to Arsenal and Manchester City. They did have a lot of people, but obviously, you know, people are losing their jobs. So that's a terrible situation. And you're in that environment where people are losing their jobs, and you're the head coach, a young guy coming in from Portugal, trying to, as you say, make your own stamp on it, make those changes. And changing the culture of a football club isn't just changing the first team. It's the whole club. It's the whole environment around the club. It's how the club operates and behaves. And if you look at the work that Mikel Arteta's done at Arsenal, and whether or not Mikel's going to get them over the line, culturally, Arsenal is in a different place than 5 or 6 years ago. It is a different environment. It's not just Mikel, it's the management of the club as well. But Mikel has been very clear in the way he's gone about it, the way he's done it, the stamp that he's put on it, and whether he wins something or leaves tomorrow, he's going to leave Arsenal in a better place because of that.
But a lot of damage has been done. Sorry, Mark.
No, I was just going to say, you need the identity, and you don't see it yet with Amorim at United. You just can't see it. I think you see it very clearly at Arsenal.
A lot of damage has been done by the way Jim Ratcliffe has gone about those cuts. Yeah. It's not just we had a bloated staff, Absolutely. We had to slimline it. It's not just that. I think people who are there, even the people who lost their jobs, would go, OK, we didn't need two of us to do one job. It was the way it was done. And we all know people who worked at the club, and the way that has been managed has just ripped apart a lot of what was the fabric of a phenomenal football club, the local people that meant so much. A lot of that's been stripped back. So when we talk about culture, it comes from the top.